10 years ago, a massive earthquake hit Japan, destroying most of Tokyo. Now, Deadman Wonderland, a prison that also doubles as an amusement park, stands at its epicenter. Ganta is just an ordinary schoolboy who is planning to visit Wonderland with his friends before the exams. As the first class starts, Ganta starts to hear a familiar lullaby. He looks out the window and sees a man in red floating outside. He swings his hands, causing a massive explosion in the class. When Ganta gets his bearings, he notices that all of his classmates are dead. He looks up and sees the red man standing over him and tries to run away, but is unable to move. The man conjures a blood crystal and shoves it into his chest, making him black out. The next day, Ganta wakes up in a hospital and is quickly taken in custody for orchestrating a terrorist attack, killing 29 of his classmates. A lawyer, Tamaki, meets up with him and tells him not to worry as he'll try and get him out of this mess. However, the very next day, Ganta is charged with life imprisonment. Seeing that he is being framed, Ganta tries to run away, but the victims' families catch him, making his phone drop from his pocket. A fake video of him confessing to the crime starts to play in front of everyone. Tamaki looks at him mockingly, saying that he cannot help him anymore. The next thing Ganta knows is that he has been escorted to Deadman Wonderland, where he is processed by Kasuba and Makina, the prison warden who hands all the new inmates a survival kit and places a cuff around their necks. Suddenly, Yotakemi, an inmate, accidentally runs into Ganta with a cart. Without any warning, Makina draws her sword and brutally slices Yo's chest. The next day, Ganta is given the task of doing manual labor. As he carries the scrap metal, all he wishes is to be dead. A strange girl with snow-white hair, Shiro, drops on him from above. She grabs a pipe, saying that she will grant him his wish and starts swinging the pipe at him, but Ganta keeps dodging it. She throws the pipe away and asks if he really killed his friends, making Ganta cry. He then tells her that he would never hurt his friends. Later, 3 men appear out of nowhere to bully Ganta. Shiro tries to stand up for him, but gets knocked out by a shovel to the head. Suddenly, the water tower above them explodes and starts to fall straight toward them. A sharp pain shoots through Ganta's chest. He raises his hand to stop the tank from falling on him and Shiro. At that moment, a bullet made of blood appears and shoots out his hand, destroying the tank. When the dust clears, Ganta notices that the men have been crushed by the falling debris. He runs to Shiro's side to see if she is all right, but finds her asleep. Upon waking up, she asks Ganta to be her friend. Ganta goes to the medical ward to get treated by Dr. Ray, where he runs into Yo again. Ganta tries to apologize for getting him injured, but he tells him not to worry. Yo asks if he had some candy that came with the survival pack, but Ganta has no idea about it. Yo explains to him that they need to participate in deathly amusement events for the masses to earn points. Those credits can be exchanged for food and other items, especially candy that he needs to take every 3 days, as it is the antidote to the poison the collar keeps injecting into him. He tells him to participate in the upcoming dog race, as the winner will get 1,000 points, which he can exchange for 1 candy. He'll also get a free bean bun just for participating. Shiro, who just came to visit Ganta, gets excited at the thought of free snack and joins the race with them. Just before the race begins, Ganta is in the locker room with the other participants when Kozuji, a psychopathic killer, enters the room. He beats Ganta up as he's a newbie, telling everyone either drop out or not stand in his way since he needs the points. Suddenly, Makina appears, making Kozuji stop his ruckus. The race begins and Ganta starts to question his choices. The entire racetrack is lined with traps that can kill anyone in an instant. Those who try to avoid them by going around get immediately shot to death. Ganta starts to wonder what kind of a sick person would get entertainment from this. Just then, he remembers that he was planning to visit Wonderland with his friends as well. Ganta starts to fall prey to almost every trap, but Shiro, who is right beside him, saves him every time. Eventually, they make it to the end, and their only opponent left now is Kozuji. A ball drops from above, and the tiles beneath them start to break, revealing a spiked ditch below, telling the contestants that the last one to have the ball after the timer ends wins. The ball falls into Ganta's hands. Kozuji, who tries to take it from him, ends up falling to his death instead. The game has not stopped since Shiro is left as well. However, when the tile beneath her collapses, Ganta decides to save her instead. He lets go of the ball and grabs Shiro's hand before she falls, tying the game. In a room, Ganta writes a letter to one of his friend's parents, letting them know that he is innocent and that he will die tomorrow. Yo enters his room, surprised that Ganta is going to be his roommate. He hands Ganta a candy, saying that it was his fault that Ganta lost in the first place. Ganta gladly accepts it with tears in his eyes, putting himself in Yo's debt. Yo takes him outside for ice cream as a treat for making it through his first game. Although he is glad that Yo bought him some food, Ganta begins to feel sad because the last time he had ice cream was with his friends from middle school. Suddenly, Ganta starts to feel pain in his chest again. He looks up and sees the red man floating in the air. The man drops to the ground, conjuring a massive tornado, knocking everyone away. Blood starts to spew out of Ganta's chest. He raises his hand and fires a massive blood bullet at the man, hitting him on the head. The man, however, is completely unfazed and flies away. Ganta tries to chase him down but falls unconscious. Upon waking up in the hospital, Ganta finds Shiro beside him. Shiro attempts to engage him in conversation, but he appears disinterested and unresponsive. Ganta now knows that the Red Man is in Wonderland and overhears a few inmates talking about the man being held in G Block. While going through the attack footage, Makina orders to put everyone in lockdown and bring Ganta to her. Ganta scurries around the corridors with Shiro looking for G Block. He eventually runs into Yo, who tells him that there is no such thing as G Block, but Shiro tells them that she has been there. Suddenly, a security robot, Necro Macro, spots them and attacks, but Shiro manages to pull them into the vents. The robot starts to follow them, but they eventually lose it. When they stop to take a breath, Ganta looks to his side and sees that they have arrived at G Block. Necro suddenly bursts through a wall and begins to attack them with rockets. Ganta tries to use his blood attack but fails to do so. Right at that moment, blood appears behind the robot, and it gets sliced to shreds. Seeing the Red Man in front of him, Ganta loses it. He grabs a pipe and tries to attack the man with it, but he cuts it to pieces like butter with his blood blades. The man gets disappointed and tells Ganta that he is Senji, also known as Crow, and that Ganta is known as Woodpecker here in G Block. He tells Ganta that he is not special and that there are others with blood abilities like him, making him realize that he is not the real Red Man. Senji tells Ganta to not hold back as he is coming to kill him, but gets kicked in the face by Shiro, who tells him not to bully Ganta. Suddenly, all of them get hit by tranquilizer darts. Both Yo and Shiro are escorted out of G Block. Meanwhile, Ganta is taken to a laboratory. When he wakes up, Ganta realizes that he has been strapped down to a bed and that his lawyer, Tamaki, is standing over him. Ganta's blood begins to boil with rage as it all makes sense now. He was framed by the very lawyer he thought he could trust. He tells Ganta that he knows a gifted impersonator who made the fake video to frame him. Ganta tries to attack him, but Tamaki simply hits a button, electrocuting Ganta. He lets go after a while and tells Ganta to let go of the past as he is about to conduct a little test called Carnival Corpse for him. Tomorrow he has to fight one-on-one against the Crow. The winner will not only get free candy but also a large sum of points. If he emerges victorious from enough of his tests, he can go against his nemesis the Red Man, or as they call him, the Wretched Egg. Tamaki raises Ganta's bed and forces his eyes open, telling him that he will now learn about the test and plays him a video that sends chills down his spine. After hours of forcefully making him watch videos of Carnival Corpse, Ganta is sent to an arena to face off against Crow. The fight is to be broadcasted live to certain elite people who had paid extra to see it anonymously. As soon as the battle starts, Ganta quickly runs to a tree and climbs it to avoid Senji, who just laughs at his cowardice. He tells Ganta that running away and hiding in trees will not save him. Ganta notices that Senji uses blades to cut into his arms to draw blood out, which he then uses to form massive blades. He bites on his thumb to make it bleed, then starts to form small blood bullets so can take on Senji safely from a distance. Senji, however, easily slices all of his bullets in half. After a few minutes, Ganta starts to feel cold and dizzy. Senji tells him that he's an idiot for flinging his blood like that, since that is a precious resource and what keeps him alive. Senji releases more of his blood to extend his blades. He then proceeds to slice the tree to pieces, making Ganta fall. Senji then quickly gets in and cuts Ganta multiple times, incapacitating him. Ganta looks up the ceiling and starts to cry, making Senji take pity on him. Memories start to flood back to Ganta as he remembers how he and Shiro used to be friends when they were little and how she once saved him from a mutated dog. Senji starts to walk away, but Ganta manages to drag himself back up, impressing Senji. He shoots a bullet at one of the lights above, making it fall right on top of Senji. As Senji tries to slice the falling light, Ganta closes in on him and shoots in the chest at point-blank range, knocking him out. As the fight concludes, Ganta emerges as the winner. While being escorted out of the arena with his prize, Senji bumps fists with him for having an amazing fight. That night, as Ganta lies in his room, the TV starts to play. Ganta looks at it and is horrified to see that Senji is tied to a chair on stage. Dr. Ray appears and spins a roulette that lands on an eye. She then grabs a tool from her tray and pulls Senji's left eye out, making Ganta throw up. Ganta realizes that he's in a hellhole and has forgotten that madmen are in charge here. Ganta finds his given food difficult to consume as he is still grappling with the guilt of someone being injured because of his actions. He starts to hear voices outside his room and rushes out to find a scared girl holding flowers as a giant man corners her, telling her to give it to him as he needs to eat it. Ganta quickly intervenes and gives the man his food, who starts to swallow it with the spoons and everything. He turns to ask them both for more, but the girl quickly grabs Ganta and drags her into her room. Ganta is taken aback for a moment as the entire room is filled with flowers. She apologizes to him since he had to give up his food for her, but Ganta tells her that it's alright since he wasn't hungry anyways. The girl, Minatsuki Takami, sits next to him and starts to tell him a sob story of how her father used to beat her up, and one day she used her powers to kill him, which landed her in Wonderland. Ganta thinks for a moment and then tells her that they can try and escape from here using their powers. They both try to escape but are quickly caught by the guards. One of the guards calls Minatsuki Mockingbird, shocking Ganta as she is her next opponent. The next day, Ganta is taken back to the arena for the fight. As soon as the bell rings, Ganta tells Minatsuki that he is not going to hurt her. Minatsuki, however, pulls out her earrings and attacks Ganta without a warning. She starts to laugh hysterically, telling him how the look of despair on his face excites her. Realizing that she was bluffing before, Ganta attacks Minatsuki with a blood bullet. Suddenly, Ganta hears Yu's voice, telling him to stop as Minatsuki is her sister, as he makes his way into the arena. Minatsuki starts to sob again, making Yu come to her side. Ganta tries to tell Yu the truth, but he is in no mood of listening. He stands in front of Minatsuki to protect her, but she quickly takes him hostage and uses him as a shield against Ganta's attacks, telling Yu that she is a murderer and that she is going to rip him to shreds just like her horrible mother. When Yu tells her that that's her mother she's talking about, Minatsuki laughs, saying that during the earthquake 10 years ago, she chose to save a flower over her. Ganta waits for an opening and then shoots Minatsuki behind the neck, making her stagger and drop Yu. He then quickly closes in on Minatsuki, telling her that she is just trying to imitate her mother by keeping plants, and then headbutts her, knocking her out and winning the match. Shiro's with Hagiura, the director of Deadman Wonderland. Hagiura tells Shiro that her actual name is Wretched Egg, but she refuses to believe him. Hagiura forcefully takes out one of his blood tubes and activates his powers to kill Shiro, but she easily avoids his attacks and causes a massive earthquake, killing Hagiura. Meanwhile, Ganta is with Yu and Minatsuki after the fight, apologizing that he didn't know she was his little sister when the massive earthquake hits them. They go back to their rooms and see that they are all completely destroyed. Not long after he gets there, Ganta runs into Senji again. He tries to apologize for his eye, but Senji tells him not to worry as things like this happen all the time here. After a while, Ganta goes with Yu to the medical room to get some supplies. He asks Yu about Shiro, and he tells him that he didn't see her after they got out. Yu asks Ganta if he has known Shiro long. He tells him that at first she seemed familiar, but now he remembers that he used to play with her when they were little. At that time, Shiro was being kept at a facility where Ganta's mother used to work, and he would go there every day to meet her. He also tells him how she saved him once from a dog. Later that day, Ganta is looking for Yu when he runs into Minatsuki in her room. Seeing her makes him realize that she still has to play a penalty round and that he needs to help Yu so he can buy off her sentence. He runs out of the room to look for Yu when suddenly a girl in a hood, Karako, punches him in the stomach. When he regains his breath, Karako apologizes and takes him to meet Nagi, a man with a robotic voice. They both greet Ganta and ask him if he wants to join them in the prison breakout. Ganta tells them that he will get back to them as he is trying to stop the penalty round, but the TV turns on and he sees that Minatsuki is already tied to a chair. Ganta tries to run to her aid, but Nagi stops him. He pulls out a tooth with a walkie-talkie and calls someone. The roulette starts to spin and lands on Hair, making Dr. Ray mad as that wasn't supposed to be a choice. Suddenly, the door bursts open. A man with red hair and a guitar, Azuma, walks in. He strikes his guitar once, making the sound waves hit them like bullets. Azuma throws Yu's limp body in front of them. Seeing him in this state makes Ganta go mad. He tries to attack Azuma with his blood bullet, but just disperses near him. Just when he is about to kill them all with his guitar, Shiro drops in from the vent above, accidentally breaking his guitar. Seeing that his weapon is broken, Azuma thinks it's best for him to retreat for the moment. Nagi takes everyone to meet up with Scar Chain group members, including Bundo. Bundo hands Nagi a chip, telling him that this is their ticket out of here. Nagi introduces Bundo to Ganta, telling him that he handles all their intel single-handedly, and he is the one who saved Minatsuki in the penalty round. After a while, Karako gathers everyone up and starts to explain the course of action. She tells them next week there will not be any games, so that will be a prime opportunity for them to strike. Bundo asks Nagi about the Undertakers, such as Azuma, to which he tells them to avoid combat with them at all costs. When Ganta tells them that he saw Azuma dispel his attack, nobody is willing to believe him. Bundo quickly pulls up a video of Azuma simply dodging his attack. Seeing that everyone is just laughing at him, Ganta leaves with Shiro not wanting to be a part of them. After a while, Ganta runs into Senji at the gym and asks him about Nagi. Senji tells him that 2 years ago, Nagi and his wife were brought in as prisoners, and they both had to fight each other. Nagi lost to her, and they took out his vocal cords. His wife, however, was blamed for playing a fixed game. Nagi tried to run away with her, but Azuma killed her in front of him. Ganta heads back to his room where he finds Nagi waiting for him with Shiro. He apologizes for what he said earlier and agrees to join his cause. Nagi tells him it's alright since he's not looking for revenge and that he has a daughter waiting for him outside. That night, Ganta tells Shiro not to follow him into the mission as he'll figure out a way to get her out. The next day, Scarchain puts his plan into action. As Nagi and Bundo make their way into the control room to activate the service elevator, the others make a beeline for it through the basement. However, just when they get close, a security robot attacks them. Karako throws the chip toward Ganta, telling him to hold onto it with his life and run for it with the others as she holds the robot back. Ganta still wants to go back and help Karako out, but the others disagree, saying that she is tough and knows what she is doing. All they have to do now is wait for Nagi to activate the elevator. Meanwhile, back in the control room, Nagi tells Bundo to activate the elevator after they clear out the guards, but he just stands there. Nagi asks if he's okay and Bundo assures him that he is fine. Suddenly, a young girl, Hibana, appears. Seeing that she might be lost, Nagi goes over to her and asks if she's lost, but she doesn't respond. Nagi realizes that Bundo has betrayed them. He turns back and sees Bundo just standing there grinning at him mockingly. Hibana suddenly draws out a massive sword. Nagi tries to use blood powers, but they disperse near Hibana, making him realize that Ganta was actually telling them the truth. Hibana swings her sword, whacking Nagi into a wall. Hibana tells him that she is going to slice him like a proper young lady and starts swinging her sword, thinly slicing his muscles. Nagi taunts her, saying that a lady would never butcher anyone like her and she is nothing but a brat. Hibana starts to cry and swing her sword like a maniac, chopping his hand off. Nagi uses this opportunity to cause a massive explosion using his blood powers and calls down the elevator. Everyone down below cheers with joy as they see the elevator coming down. They quickly get into it, knowing that they will soon taste freedom, but just as they reach the top, Azuma is waiting for them with guards. They open fire, killing anyone in their sight. As the others try to fight the guards, they give Ganta the chip and tell him to get out of here with everyone else, but Azuma catches him. Just when he is about to kill him, another Undertaker, Kazuchi, informs him that they need to go. Azuma puts his weapon away, telling Ganta that he will soon knit his private show and leaves. Only a few of the Scarchain members remain. They rush towards the door to use the data chip, but suddenly Shiro drops from the vent above. She runs to Ganta, telling him to hand over the data. She snatches it from his hand and quickly throws it into a room, locking the door behind her just before it explodes. She looks at Ganta, glad that she was able to make it in time and save his life. Everyone stands still in disbelief that Shiro just destroyed their only lifeline. Shiro tries to explain herself, but Ganta has enough of it. He punches Shiro in the face, telling her to leave at once. Disappointed by their failure, the re-imaging Scarchain members head back to their meeting room, where they run into Karako, who is severely injured. When she asks what happened, Ganta tells her everything, still unable to believe that Shiro would do such a thing. She tells them not to worry as an inspection team is on their way to Wonderland. If they can get their attention, they can rile people from the outside up to their cause. They sit down to discuss who else they can ask to join their cause. Suddenly, Bundo enters the room. Everyone is excited to see him and asks where Nagi is, but Bundo loses it, demanding that they tell him who figured out that the data chip was a bomb. Guards enter the room along with Kazuchi and Dokoku, another Undertaker. Bundo tells everyone that he is going to enjoy killing everyone, but Senji suddenly shoots into the room, slicing both Undertakers to shreds. He asks who's the strongest, but Wakabayashi, a member of Scarchain, tells him that he already took them out. Senji shrugs his shoulders and starts attacking the guards, but they neutralize his attacks. Bundo laughs, telling him that they neutralize his attacks at 20 megapascals per second. After listening to what he has to say, Senji changes his stance and swings out his blood sword faster than the speed of sound, killing every guard with a sonic boom. He starts to leave, but Ganta stops him, asking him to join them. Senji begins to laugh, saying that the outside world is no different. Meanwhile, Nagi is being held hostage by Azuma, who invites him over to the Undertakers and tells him that he has been brainwashed to think that he has a daughter waiting for him on the outside. When Nagi refuses to join him, Azuma begins to torture him slowly. He starts to inject drugs, causing Nagi to hallucinate and make his real memories flood back to him. Realizing that he needs to get stronger, Ganta rushes over to Senji, begging him to teach him how to use the supersonic move. Senji agrees but tells him to own up to his strength after he learns. Meanwhile, Karako briefs the remaining members of Scarchain about their final plan. It's been over an hour. but Ganta still can't manage to shoot his blood at supersonic speeds. Senji thinks for a moment, then asks if he has any candy on him. When Ganta hands in his candy, Senji crushes all of it except one and ties it to a pole, telling Ganta to try and shoot it down faster than his blade. If he wins, he can have his last candy. They keep practicing for a little more when suddenly a man walks in. Even Senji is taken aback since that man is Mockingbird Todo. Todo walks up to Ganta and tells him that Shiro is looking for him and wants to punch him back. Meanwhile, Karako is trying to impersonate one of the guards when Shiro drops out of a vent. Karako tries to take her away, but Azuma suddenly walks in on them and catches them both. Meanwhile, Senji has enough of Ganta. He tells him that he's about to pass out and there is nothing he can do right now. Ganta, who's on his knees, shoots out one last small bullet that is able to break the sound barrier, impressing Senji. The TV starts to play and Azuma appears on it, telling everyone that he has taken both Karako and Shiro as hostages. Ganta and the last members of Scar Chain drop what they are doing and rush towards Azuma's room. On his way, Ganta gets ambushed by guards, but suddenly, a massive wave of blood by Minatsuki kills them all. She tells him that they are even now and leaves. Ganta enters the room and instantly shoots the guards holding Karako and Shiro. He starts to feel numb because of all the blood loss. Ganta then looks up at Azuma, who just laughs. A massive door behind them opens and sitting there alone on a sofa is Nagi, who has completely lost his mind. Nagi screams in agony because he now remembers that his child was killed along with his wife. Massive orbs of blood shoot out from him and start to explode, killing anyone who is near. He walks straight up to Shiro, killing everyone in his way, and tries to beat her to a pulp, but Ganta jumps in front of her, protecting her from Nagi's attacks. Ganta tries to talk Nagi out of it, but he is too lost. Even worse, the poison from the collar starts to affect him as he has not eaten candy in such a long time. Right at that moment, a chain around Karako's neck jingles, bringing Nagi back to his senses. He suddenly remembers what he was actually here to do. He tries to fight his emotions, but Karako slaps him across the face, bringing him back to reality. Azuma suddenly stabs Karako in the chest. Seeing her fall like that makes Ganta's blood boil. He conjures a massive blood bullet and shoots it at Azuma, who barely manages to block it. He tells Ganta to calm down as he avoided Karako's major arteries and that she will survive it. He looks at Nagi and tells him to get on with the killing, but he refuses. Seeing that all the fun is over, Azuma blows a massive hole in Nagi using his guitar. Ganta, who is still in shock, watches Shiro get up to defend him. The pain in his chest upsurge again. Both Ganta and Shiro's blood begins to glow. He starts forming a massive bullet, telling Azuma that this is not their time to die. Ganta then fires the bullet. Azuma tries to get out of the way, but Nagi, with his last remaining strength, grabs him by the leg, not letting him move an inch. The massive bullet hits Azuma dead center in the chest, vaporizing him. When the dust settles, Karako and Ganta rush to Nagi's side as he bids his last farewell. Just before he dies, Nagi hands Ganta his last candy. When the time for him comes to leave, Ganta decides to stay back with Shiro as he has nothing left outside. As the rest of the Scar Chain escapes, Makina asks the enraged Tamaki if everything is alright. He just avoids the question, saying that the director's job was thrust on him without his consent. Before she leaves, Makina tells Tamaki that both Ganta and Yo were found and that they will be thoroughly investigated after they recover. After some time, Ganta and Shiro hung out on the roof of a building, and Shiro started singing the same song that Ganta heard before the Red Man killed all his classmates. When the main man tells her that he knows the song, Shiro responds that it was made by his mom. That said, he tells her to stop as it reminds him of that day, ending the series on a cliffhanger. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more recaps.